Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another section of the Hub webinar. And in this section, we'll be talking about product management. And our speaker for today is Mr. Emmanuel. He's an industry expert and an industry expert in product management, and he works for an organization here in Nigeria. So I will bring in to the stage Mr. Emmanuel to educate us much more about product management, being a very demanding digital skill in this our day and time. And every one of us need to be equipped with a proficient digital skill. And I will bring in up Mr. Emmanuel Ojemeiri, an industry expert in product management, to educate us on the need and the advantage of product management in this our day and time. All right, Mr. Emmanuel, are you with us? Hello, Mr. Emmanuel.
Yes,
Are you with
yes,
us?
yeah, absolutely. Am I audible? Everyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
All right.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Emmanuel. It's good to have you with us.
Yeah,
All right.
I just finished watching the game, right? So it was pretty interesting. But am I
Okay.
am I audible enough? Just want to know if everyone can
Yeah,
hear
yeah,
me
we are
well.
live already. We are live already,
All right.
and we can hear you.
So you're right. So I believe we have about 4 hours for this session, right? To go over. Okay, so
Sorry.
I'll be sharing my screen.
All right. All right. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah. No, it's fine. I know it's 1 hour, so I'll try to be as brief as possible, and I think this is how we do it. Um, I'll go over what product management is quite broad, right? It will be very difficult to kind of encapsulate and capture everything there is to know about PM in about an hour. But I will try as much as possible to cover as much as I can, and then maybe we'll leave about 15 minutes for questions, right? So as I go, right, I think it's just I believe people will have questions, and also we can have like a 15-minute session for questions, and then just as I go, please take down your questions, and then um, after that, then we'll address every single one of them. So let's kick it off. Let me just share my screen really quickly so that you can see the little slides that I had to put together um, in such a short time. Right. So yes. So thanks to the Hub webinar team for providing this platform to kind of learn about all these things. I know that there are other sessions with other aspects of our industry, right? So today is the day for the for the aspect that everyone thinks it's easy. Everyone thinks it's easy. It's not as difficult. The barrier to entry. The barrier to entry is really it's truly low. I would say it's not as high as say like a back end dev now, for instance, right? Um, it's easy for you to learn on the job, as a matter of fact. But really quickly, let's talk about what we have, the journey and process of professional product management, right? So in my agenda here, we have an introduction, and then I'm looking at the product management journey. Look at who is the novice PM, um, what are some of the essential skills that is required for you to be a product manager. We look at tools and frameworks that are required as well. Who is a senior PM, associate PM, and product leader. I think I kind of mix all that together in it. Then we look at some of the challenges of product management and continuous learning and development, and we look at the final tips and takeaways. you can take out of this session. Right. So as I said, please um, let us take our questions. It's very interesting. I would like me. I'm the kind of person that I like to have an interactive session. Right. I would even love to maybe to see one or two faces, but I guess considering the structure of how the class has been, that might not be possible. So, but that's fine. Right. So really quickly, not so much to waste too much of our time. Let's go to what we have on our introduction, which is so the basic fundamentals of what I would like to assume that there has been, persons, that have done maybe a little bit of research on uh, what product management is, who is a product manager, and then we'll now look at what are the key responsibilities and roles of a product manager, right? What really is the importance of product management in the product lifecycle? Because to put it short, to put it straightforward, to build a product, you need a team, basically, right? Very rarely will you see, maybe back then, and when the internet was very young, and when people started getting innovative and having ideas, it was really easy. I think it was a different environment at the time when the person can just put some code together, write this, write that, and you have a product. You can do that, but the difference is, is are you building a product for yourself, or you intend to have users, right? If you are building a product for yourself for your own personal use, or maybe your friends and family, it's fine. You can do that. And very rarely, products like that may actually scale, right? But there's a difference between building a product for yourself and then it's just you. You are the only one using it, maybe your friends, and then building a product and actually taking it to the market, right? For different purposes. You might want to serve the investors, you might want to serve, you just want to have users, for whatever reason you have users for. You have your vision that, or you have a dream that, you are going to build a product that will cure cancer or that will save the world, for instance, depending on what it is. And also importantly, we are going to be looking at career stages that are involved, um, that will be interesting to you as a PM, and how can you transition from a novice to a professional? As for me personally, I don't know if I'm still a novice or I'm still a professional, but when we get there, we will know, right? So please, let us ensure that we are taking notes on all this because it's quite important, to do so. So if we so that at the end of the day, we can all look at some questions, some interesting questions, have like interesting conversations. So yes, what is product management? So what really it is? So for my notes here, I have product management, the strategic organizational function that involves end-to-end management of the product lifecycle, right? It includes planning, development, launch, ongoing support, and enhancement of product to meet customer needs and business objectives. So if you go on Google, try to Google what is product management, or you go on ChatGPT and try to find out what product management is. That's kind of like the answer that you're going to get, right? Let's plenty grammar and telling you, what it is. But what really it is what product management is basically guiding a product to the market, right? From the moment it's in the mind of someone, right? To the point where you launch it to the market and you try to monetize it, right? That's what product management is all about, right? Essentially, essentially. So it's a really important aspect of, and I would say that it wasn't until very recently that there started to become it started to have like proper structure, proper nomenclature to what product management is. A lot of companies have been doing, PMing without knowing that, oh, this is actually what they are doing. At some point they probably thought it's there it was um being a business analyst, right, in quotes, was kind of like the umbrella, term for what was in fact managing your product. And I must also stress or mention that, excuse me, there's a big difference between what product management is and what project management is, because a lot of people they tend to like confuse those two things. They are not essentially the same, right? They can be the same, and there are parts where they they are there's an overlap between those two things. What product management is and what project management is. But as we go on, we will understand more about what it is and why is it really important, right? In And why is it really important in today's landscape. And um, right. So if that is what product management is, right? If what you do, if what it is an end-to-end management of the product life cycle, right? And in fact, what is even the product life cycle? So product life cycle is that journey a product takes. So if you me, I try to break this concept down as to be as simple as possible. So that journey a product takes. Remember, a product is not just what you go on App Store to download, right? You didn't just wake up and happen to be there by magic, right? It took a process, right? You have different processes from ideation, that's conceptualization. That means at the time when it was thought of, right? Um, it was an idea, and then that idea kind of materialized into plan, right? And your planning can be a lot of things. It can be your market research, your customer research. You try to get insights from who you think are your prospective users, or who you envision are going to be the end users, or what you are trying to build. And then you have your development. Obviously, I think that's something that a lot of us are familiar with, where you have different teams working on what has moved from what was just an idea to what you have conceptualized, and you are now you plan this, you come up with your roadmap, you come up with your requirements, you come up with a lot of documentation to kind of detail, right, how a product is supposed to work, right? The kind of market it's going to be speaking to, and people that are going to now be using it, right? So, and then you have it doesn't end there, right? Product management doesn't just end at, oh, you are working with your engineer, you are working with your developer, you are working with your designers, you are working with your data analyst and all, and you are putting all that together into like a soup, right? It goes into your launch, right? Your launch plans as well, how you plan to go to your markets. Um, it goes into ongoing continuous support and enhancements, right? Which um, I'm really conscious of my time, so that um, I don't waste too much time speaking on the same things. Um, just want to be as good as possible as well. So continuous enhancement to meet your customer needs as well, right? So now, who then is your product manager? To keep it simple, right? All of the processes that I've explained, where um, you talk about conceptualization, you talk about planning, right? And planning how you talk about research, requirement gathering, the development itself, which you will be on the back of the research that you must have done, market research and analysis that you must have done on the products. And talk about the launching. So a PM is the professional responsible for all that. Essentially, let me make it short. A product manager is the professional responsible for the success of a product in a company. A PM is the one that is overall responsible for a product. Let me put it that way, because I don't want to say overall responsible for the development of the product, because it's actually more than that. Overall responsible for the planning, development, strategy, launch, sustainable success of that product, right? And it doesn't just end there as well. They're like a PM is like the one in the middle, right? The one in the middle, and the one that gets all the blame for everything. But if everything goes right, it's the developer. They did so well. If one single thing goes wrong, it's the PM that is at fault, right? So that's blessing and the curse of being a PM, right? The others, bridges between departments. Envision, like a circle, right? Let's say five persons around the circle, and then there's one person at the center. If that person does not do it, it's not stable enough, the, the circle is going to collapse. Right. So who are the other members of the circle? Like they are your team members, they are the developers, your engineers. Time will not really permit me to go in depth into all these concepts. There are developers, there are engineers, there are your marketers, your designers, your compliance team, your customer success team, you know, your business analysts, and so you manage down and you manage upwards, right? At the same time, right? It's also the person that is in the middle of communications between getting more ideas, getting into the minds of C-level executives as well, right? So your CEOs, the owners, the real owners of of the business, and if there's a board in the company that you are in, it's the PM, that's kind of like in the middle of all that. So you have the people making all the decisions, right? Right? They tell you, um, this is where our product is at this point in time. In about 5 years, in about 3 years or 2 years, this is where we must get to. It is now the PM's responsibility to break down, that vision into understandable chunks for everybody else, for your in form of requirements, right? For your developers, for developers, for your engineers, for everybody, and what's not, right? So, and then what are the key responsibilities and the roles of a PM? And then what are the attributes, right, of a product manager as well? So, like I've listed here, right, you have a PM is essentially responsible and accountable for all of these things, product vision and strategy. Though it's not something that you know um, lies and solely on the product manager, but overall they are responsible for that. Every product vision and strategy, market research, the product development in itself, and I think I've spoken a lot of a bit about all this already. The product launch and marketing, life cycle management, continuous improvement, right? So let me just speak on all this one after the other. So your vision as for your products, right? Meaning what there are two things that are important, right? When building a product, you need to have a clear vision. You need to have a mission, right? Your mission is the end goal. In 10 years, what is your mission for this product to be, right? What exactly is the overall goal? If you are going to be building, let me use um let me use an ISP as an example, internet service provider, right? Their mission is to have, let's say, to provide so and so service, to provide internet access to like 10,000 people, right? That is their mission. Provide internet access to maybe to rural areas, right? They have their own target market. So let's say their target market is like rural areas, places that were not originally penetrated by established companies that do the same thing, right? So that's their own mission. Then their vision now, for instance, could be um, to be the forerunner in internet service provision in Africa, right? So your vision has to be ambitious. Your mission has to be achievable, right? So it is the responsibility of a PM to ensure that that product vision and strategy is clear, it's understandable to all. Not just that, it aligns with the goal of the business, right? So, like I said, the goal of business could be very ambitious. You have some executives that say, "Oh, in about 10 years, we want this company to grow by like 2,000%." Now, let me use a practical example. If you guys are familiar with Nvidia, right? I think their valuation grew to about 2.7 trillion this year from what it was in 2020. They had about 3,000% growth, right? So regardless of whether that was a business goal or not, let's assume that it was, right? Let's assume it was a business goal. Their their vice president of products, right, must have created a clear product vision that aligns with that goal. If it does not align, it's not clear. And the failure begins from there, right? Same way as the success begins from there as well. So what other responsibilities we have, you know, regarding vision and strategy, road mapping as well, right? Your um, your roadmap is essentially what it acts like a guide for your different teams for the company. You know, everybody involved in development. Your roadmap provides a clear timeline into milestones that must be achieved, you know, for your product, right? That's what the roadmap is. So what are the responsibilities? Market research, obviously, for you to have for you to have a good product, right? You know, I said earlier that if as a PM you are building a product, you are not you are not just building you are not just building for yourself, right? You are building for customers. So what does that mean essentially, really? Because your idea can be great. You might you might want to build a spaceship like Elon Musk, right? You might want to build, the next. You might want to be in front of the electric vehicle revolution, right? But if your product does not solve any problem, it means you are not speaking to the customer, right? If you build something and it doesn't solve my problem, regardless of how fancy the idea is, it's going to end at that. It's just going to be a fancy idea. It's not really going to do anything for me, right? Meaning, as your customer, have you did you try to see did you try to validate your idea? Now, it's a two-edged sword, right? If you are going to the market with something entirely new, and that means you are trying to it's bare bone innovation. Nobody has done it before. You will need market validation for that, right? That's where your market and customer research comes in, right? But in other cases, it is possible that you are trying to build a product that exists in the market already, right? What that means is there is already a validation that exists for that, meaning there's already a market for it, right? Where the difference will now come in is what are you doing differently from what other players are doing already, right? So that's what your market and customer research is all about. Let me run. I think I have about 5 minutes left. So your product development in itself is also a responsibility of the PM. So this is where I would say, okay, let me not say that, but I would say if I were to list top five or top three most important responsibilities and roles of the PM, product development is going to be one of them, right? Because it's product development it could be simple and complex at the same time. What matters is it clear, right? Is it clear to your team doing the work, right? Now, to build, and I'm going to assume that we are talking about solutions, software solutions in tech right now. If you are going to build a product, right, that is going to succeed, right, you need, at bare minimum, this is the team you need, right? You need developers, you need engineers, front end, back end, your DevOps that is not going to be working in the middle. Depending on the kind of product you're also building, you might need a designer, right? As a product designer to do your wireframes and prototype how the product is really going to be like. You now need a solution architecture that will help you with your architecture infrastructure, build your um, draw the map of what the foundation of your product is going to look like. You need your business analyst, you need your PM, and what am I forgetting again? So at the bare minimum, I think there's one other rule I'm forgetting now. At the bare minimum, this is kind of what you need for your product development. Now, it is now up to the product manager to define clear and concise requirements for this to be built. Now, you get your idea, you get your concepts, you get your proof of concept from your executives, your business analysts, people that have gone into the market, done their research, they come back to you and say, "Oh, this is what we want to be." Now it is up to you now to define to the last detail, which is why it also helps for a PM to be technical as well, right? Because you'll be able to communicate properly and clearly to people that you're working with. Okay, let me move fast because we're just seeing introduction phase right now. Then you have your product launch and marketing. Obviously, a PM also has to be involved and responsible for those, right? Because um, unless, of course, your measure of success, how you value or how you measure success is that you are building for yourself. So if you are satisfied, you are fine. But if you are going to be doing more than that, if you work in a business or you work in a company that is looking to profit or revenue is important to them, um, investor satisfaction is also important to them. You obviously need to go to the market. You need to take it out, and of course, you must have mapped out what your target market is, right? So you're not bidding for everybody. You're bidding for a select group. For instance, if your product is baby dolls, right? Like or let me say toys, right? You are that means your target market for winning these toys uh, is it's a certain demographic, and that demographic is say children or not just any child, a girl child, of say um, 2 to 5 years old. Those are the ones you are bidding for. That is the market. That's your target market. So your marketing is now going to be structured around where children are now going to be for them to access the product. You are not going to build you're not going to build that sort of product and now take it to um, adults now, for instance, unless you are doing an indirect marketing where you market to the adults for you to be able to reach their kids. But if you are trying to market directly to them, you are in the wrong market, right? Product life cycle management, like I said already, from inception, initiation, development, planning, go to market, launch, and all that, right? And then you have yeah, continuous improvement, obviously. Now, this is the part where you get information from your customers, from your users, that will also impact your life cycle changes, right? Because let me witness, if you know any product that you have been using over the past 2 years, right, there have been different times that you have received updates to those products, right? It will tell you update your app. WhatsApp, for instance, if you don't update it, maybe I think 30 days, they will tell you that you can't use app anymore. You have to go get a new version. And the reason why they're doing that is because there are new features or security patches that are upgraded based off of feedbacks or reviews that I've gotten from their users or customers that talks directly to these are the improvement that we're looking for in this product, right? So which takes us back to your customer research that never ends. You have as a PM, you have to be constantly getting feedback from your users, from your customers. Otherwise, you'll be stuck in a loop. You will just be left behind. Your product will be left behind. You're not going to be making improvements. You will just think, oh, you have done this and it's the best. Because even as a product manager, you know, you are not just a PM, you are a product user as well. Right. So you have to be in an industry where you are very familiar. Or even if you're not familiar, make yourself familiar with it so that you understand the ins and outs, you understand how fast your industry is moving and you can easily make changes. End of life is going as well. Your products at the end of the day, at some points, you might have to take it off the shelf, right? Due to different reasons, right? So I also, it's not something you can just jump up and say, hey, you are not producing the services anymore, right? There's a process to that. So what are the key attributes of the PM? You have to be you have to be a strategic thinker, right? You have to think differently from everybody. You have to be able to think strategy, right? Strategy in planning, strategy in development, in launching your products. You have to be very analytical. Analytical in the sense that there are metrics that will be right in front of you, right? That are important. Your customer retention rate, your burn rates, first time users that you're having, all those, a lot of data, right? You have to be able to make data driven decisions, right? That's why it's important to work with your analysts to get those information and put them to good use. Communication, it goes without saying, you have to be extremely good at communicating. You have to be extremely good at verbal communication, communicating to your team, and written communication as well, and documentation as well, right? Because if you're not clear, your product can begin to fail from the moment where you're not even clear about what you want to develop, about what you want to do, or what you want your team to focus on. So if that collaboration is not there, it's a problem. If that communication is not there, it's a problem. Collaboration and teamwork, obviously, you have to be able to work with your team, As a product manager, you are also a leader in the team. By default, you are already a leader. So you have to have that leadership skills to be empathetic, right? And also not to be too soft because your team can easily ride on you and lie to you and all that. So you have to be very smart as a leader as well. And then you have to have problem solving skills and customer focused, right? I mentioned customer focus earlier. It's so important. I cannot stress it enough, right? Take a look at companies that have failed, right? There are companies that they were really stubborn, got a lot of feedback. A very good example that I like to cite, well, I wouldn't really say they were not customer focused, but I would just say maybe they didn't really pay attention to the changes that were happening around them, and they got left behind. I'm talking about Nokia, right? Nokia, they had the market in the chokehold, right? They had the right in their hands, but they just refused to innovate, just refused to move along with the tide. BlackBerry to make the same mistakes, and we got to the point where, um, okay, hope I'm still visible. We got to the point where they were overtaken by other players in the business. All right. So what is the importance of product manager? Product manager. I think I already spoke about this already. Yeah, customer centric focus because to it's easy to build products and you're not thinking of your customers, right? You have to have your competitive advantages. What that does for you is you have to be constantly ahead. You have to be constantly ahead of the business. You have to be constantly ahead of the industry, right? Um, you have to be constantly ahead of the curve, right? If you if you are very comfortable with where you're at, your product is very likely maybe it might succeed, but might not really go far. And then also cross-functional coordination. You are coordinating between business, you are coordinating between your board, you're coordinating between your executive, relaying information to your engineers, relaying information to your designer, wireframing. You are doing that, for your product designer to be able to get out a good prototype. You are talking to your quality assurance engineers to ensure that you are validating everything that your engineers have done. So like it's a very cross-functional role. You are in between a lot of persons, and of course, business goals as well. So how I think we should also wrap up our introduction phase as well. So how important is the product management? I think I've already spoken about a lot of this already. Concepts and ideation, which is at the beginning, you have to be able to conceptualize what you want to build, right? So it has to make sense in your head, right? And then development and design as well, right? This is where the bulk of the work comes in. Before you even get into development, you have to have your design out of the way. But some people just go straight to development depending on what kind of tools that you're using. But it is important not to skip phase. This is where you are doing your prototyping and all, right? Um, then you have your testing and validation, launch and marketing, maturity and maintenance, end of stage to the product. I think I've said a lot about this already. Let's go on to the next page. I think, um, sorry if I'm taking a lot of time. Then yes, now I think we have an idea that there's more to it to all what I've said. Everything I've said, because of the time constraints, I pretty much just scratched the surface, right? So if you go into more learning, deep learning, or I think I believe some of us are already PMs already, and so we pretty much understand a lot of things I've said already, right? Then we are not looking at but that kind of gives you an idea of what it means to be a PM, right? The industry changes consistently, right? So what that means is the role of a PM today might not be the same role that they're going to be doing tomorrow, right? It's ever evolving, right? So, but anyway, so you have your product management journey. What are the career stages and how Let me not say how what it means to transition from a novice to a professional, right? So the four career stages, five career stages, that we have. It's not exhaustive, It could be we have other structures that kind of break them down from here. You have your novice PM, your associate, and your mid-level, senior, product leader, and these five stages they come, with years. They come with experience. They come with learning. So it come with intense study. I say intense study because you have your, learning and development, right? Which is like an integral and critical part of um, of product management, right? So this brings you from one stage to another. So in fact, it's not just about experience and then, responsibilities also play a role. For instance, right, you have your novice PM where um, as a novice or you are just starting out, they will give you the go and get coffee jobs in quotes, right? Where most of what you are going to be doing is probably, trying to understand what it even means, to be a PM, right? You have little to no experience, but you are very eager to learn, absorb information, right? So yeah, in this stage you are still learning fundamental concepts. Everything I've said already, like I said, pretty much scratching the surface, assisting your senior PMs and conducting market research, which is really interesting. Market research is very, in fact, I think it's one of my favorite parts of being a PM, where you get to have these discussions with your, prospective markets, right? You will learn, you will discover that what you think or what you thought was, oh my god, an incredible solution, right? That, man, if I drop this, it's going to change the world. You are going to be the next Jeff Bezos or Mark, right? You will discover that you were so wrong about it because what the market is saying or what your customer is saying is really different from what you are conceptualizing in your head, right? But at the same time, you'll be able to you just learn a lot about how you can even better or develop your product better. So it's a really interesting phase. Um, so what kind of skills do you need um, to be at this stage? Like I said, for me personally, I think because there are different ways to pivot into PM. Some people just start off as product managers, and then the kind of qualification they have already before is they're just interested. You have to be obsessed about products. You know you have to be crazy about what you are doing, basically, right? Let me put it that way, right? So I think that for me is like the basic requirement for that. So you just have to be obsessed about your product because you have to be in a place where you are striving for making continuous improvements on something. Then understanding customer needs as well. Then analytical thinking and be a product user. Yeah. So the last one is like for me it's really important and helpful as well. So on the next level you have your associate and mid level. For me, I kind of like to put on the next level of what being a PM is, right? So an associate PM maybe has some experience in product management or related fields. Related fields could be other product design, a product design role, because I would say product design role, it's one of the roles where it's easy to kind of pivot into product management as well because you already understand um, design thinking and design process, right? Process where you are prototyping and you are mapping flows, you work hand in hand a lot with the PM, already. So it's really easy for product designers to kind of like pivot into product management. Related fields as well. But related fields, as long as you are involved in any stage of product development, any stage of research, any stage of market research. Yeah, so that works as a lot of product designers, developers, DevOps guys, right? Then you have more responsibility, like I said, and autonomy. Autonomy means they don't really need to be supervising you all the time. You can make decisions on your own, right? And then activities, managing small projects, collaborating on that, prioritizing tasks, managing timelines. So managing timelines, like I said, it's kind of more of the role of a project manager, right? So I know somebody is going to ask that question, right? I saw that question for me. So, but I'm going to differentiate the difference between a project and a product manager. And what kind of skills do you need? Enhanced communication, like that should be able to communicate very well, right? Data-driven decision making is so important, right? You don't make decisions off the top of your head. You have to have seen it. If you must take out a feature from your application, it has to make sense. What will make it make sense is you must have done your research to see that um okay, of all the 25 features I have on this app, this is the least used. And then you've done your surveys, you've done your net promoter score. They don't really want this. That is the data that you're looking at, right? And that's now what's going to drive you continue using that feature. I just like, no, I don't really want this anymore. So what about a mid-level PM, solid experience. You've had experience for like 3 4 years, to be called. But of course, for me personally, I also don't believe it's a function of time. I think it's a function of how quickly or how fast you learn, how much responsibility you have taken on, what achievement do you have under your belt, right? If you're working for as a PM for 10 years and you don't have anything in the market, can you really call yourself a mid or senior level PM? So it all depends on how much of autonomy are you able to manage? How are you able to manage your products and teams and all that, all that strategic thinking, analytical skills, leadership, and team management. So at this stage, from the mid level to the senior level is when you know you are still on the mid level is when you are still very much hands on working, like you are still managing, you are still a project manager, managing, writing requirements, doing all of those, hands on learning. So as a PM, you know, your major responsibility, right, is managing the vision, the long-term product vision and strategy, ensuring that at this point you are probably working with like 3 4 other product manager that report directly to you, still carry out the responsibility that you want. Okay, so when you haven't put it here, overseeing products from overseeing mentoring junior product managers, right? So what's more important is maintaining that product vision, because it is very easy for your product for the vision to derail if nobody pays attention, right? If you start off building a product today and you don't pay attention, you could see, if you had the ability to teleport 4 years or 10 years from now, you'll be surprised to the kind of product that you have ended up with. You will discover that what you have now is like is so different from you know what you originally had, which is why most times if you walk into a building, right, if you walk into any office, right, let me use Paystack is a very good example. I think one of the offices that was in Lagos at the time, if you walk in there, right, you will see each plastered everywhere. This is their vision, their mission, right? It's the person you see when you walk in. Okay, yes, you are reminded. This is what the vision of the company is. This is what we are trying to do, so that you will not forget. So when you are working, when you are building anything, there's an end in sight to it, right? Also, at this stage, you must have mastered product management tools and methodologies, right? Methodologies of development, methodologies of prioritization. You are a master of it already. Exceptional leadership and mentoring abilities. You are able to lead other people. And you are not just a PM anymore now. You have like strong business acumen, meaning you have the business in your mind. You're not just thinking, oh, I'm building a fancy product. Your product has to be profitable, right? Which means you are not just thinking about yourself, you are also thinking about the business as well. Right? Now, um, product leader. Who is a product leader, right? Your product leader, as I have here, is your director and your VP. This is as top as it gets, right? Obviously, then you can transition maybe to a CEO. I don't know, right? So your period leaders are the ones that are overall responsible for the vision and leadership, right? Overall product strategy, aligning with business goals. I said now, let me take you back to who a novice is. A novice PM is not really might not really be concerned with the fact that the business needs to have a turnover of $10 million in a year, right? It needs to make a revenue of $2 million or have a cash flow of about 10 million, or have operating costs down to five million dollars a month, right? But as a VP, right, or somebody on the board or a director, right, you have you are at the stage where this is what is most important to you, right? You have to decide what products to keep, what products, what parts of your product, you you take off the shelf. If you have some time, do some research into the way that Google as a company churn out products on a yearly basis. 50% of products that are developed in that company, you will never get to see it, right? So it's now the overall responsibility of the VP of product of Google now to decide what is best in terms of the product direction or the product vision for the business. What are we going to be ensuring that we do and all that. So obviously, with all this, you can get it. And what are the essential skills of the PM? You have to, I think I've said a lot about this already. Technical understanding, market and customer research, project management. Yes, a product manager is not a project manager. However, you have to have that skill as a PM. Now, what's the difference between a product manager and a project manager? No, I think I've already said a lot about what are the roles and responsibilities of a product manager. Right? Overall, a product manager is responsible for the overall strategy, overall vision, overall, overall everything. The horizon is longer for a product manager than for a project manager. Now, to develop a product or to build a product, sometimes, depending on the kind of methodologies you are using, you might have to break it down into little projects. Let me use a practical example, right? If you are to develop a banking app now, for instance, um, you have to think about a lot of things. You have to think about your onboarding, your transfers, maybe other features like you have bill payments, you have loans, you have KYC, you have to do KYCs, you have to look at how the flow of how the flow of funds will be, or how the flow of this will be. Let's say account limits, things like that, security, etc. Things like that. Now, these are different chunks of it. Now, a project there now is onboarding. So it's a project manager that has to ensure that scope of work, the timeline of the delivery, and milestone and deliverable is on track, right? So you will notice that some product management teams like just kind of like project management tools, like you have tools like Trello, like Notion, and all, right? They help you manage little chunks of a project. Now you can assign timelines, deliverables to a project manager, right? But it's very responsible, the entire product is very responsible for the product manager. While it is possible for a single product to even still be split in between product managers, but time things like timelines and all, right? It's what the PM the project manager is not responsible for and all, right? So yes. So let's say advanced skills that are needed, data analysis and interpretation. I said already, right? You have to be analytical. You have data analysis is so important, right? I'm not saying you have to be a master at SQL or Python or or tools like that, but you have to be able to understand data and how it impacts your business. You know, data is so important, right? Your competitor analysis, you have to understand the kind of work that your competition is doing. That's also a type of data, right? The kind of how many customers you have, what was your target customers, your target versus what your actuals are, right? How well you are doing as a business, all that. Strategic thinking, leadership and mentoring and all that. So, like I said, some of the tools that you might need um, as a PM, you need project management tools, like I said, Jira, Trello, Planner, Notion. They have their, you know, I've used all of these, Jira, Trello. Personally, yes, yes. I've used every single one of these, right? I think people will tell you that, oh, this one is better, that one is better, but really, it just depends on what kind of product that you're looking to deploy and what kind of framework that you are using. Your framework is your development, framework, right? Your data analysis tools as well, Google Analytics, Tableau, then if you are in a company that use office tools, Microsoft, Microsoft 365, there's the Microsoft Analytics tool as well that you might want to familiarize yourself with, like, depending on what business you're in. Then you have your collaboration tools where you communicate, Slack, Teams, Asana, even WhatsApp. Actually, I like WhatsApp in this list. It's also a collaboration tool. Then your frameworks. Now, this is where it's not so complicated. It's really simple, right? This helps your all of them are useful depending on what you want to do, right? Now, it helps with product development, right? Now, if you are using a agile and scrum methodology, which are like the I won't call them the best, but they're just like the fancy, the trending ones these days, right? but it all depends. Like so, in PM, there's no one shoe fits all style, right? Everybody tries to think, oh, this is the fancy one. We're going to be using that, but it all depends on what you're trying to do. For instance, a product might require you to break things iteratively, make it, iteratively, like tear it down into sections, right? And develop, test, validate, assure, do your operation assurance, push, right? And then you take the next one, run a sprint of 2 weeks. That's just what agile methodology is. Instead of you want to build a banking app, you will wait for every single feature, every single thing to be developed or to be designed first before you now move on to development. You finish that, you now do QA on every single one of them. That's your waterfall, right? Whereby agile, right? If your designer is done with his onboarding screens, right, you can move it on to your front end dev to start building screens for it. You can give requirements to your backend developer to start building endpoints, API endpoints for that. And then while you're already working on your onboarding, somebody else is working on another part. So that's agile one. Usually it usually runs in sprint. And your lean product development means you are prioritizing the most important features, right? For now, it's bill payment that we're doing. We're not doing anything. I'm sorry, I'm just using finance as an example. It's just like the easiest example that's coming to my head. We are prioritizing bill payments at the moment. Um, you know, that's what. So you are trying to reduce wasted, should I say wasted effort, particularly. Then your design thinking, pretty much, you have to understand how to prototype or to wireframe, your work, and then dual track. You are building things in parallel, side by side. You are doing your onboarding, you are doing your KYC, you are building your conversion structure, you are building your money transfer flow, all that in parallel, side by side. So that usually works best if you have different teams working in silos, right? So you have your team A, team B, team C working on three different things, and you have your PM at the center of it all, trying to ensure that all this, while they are working in isolation, they are still working towards a common goal. And then you have your water, which I've explained, you have to do everything at the same. So what are the common challenges? Let me see what we have here. Okay, just about 3 slides. Moderator, I'm sorry, I think I'm quite on time. So, but I also want to leave enough time for questions as well. So, what are the common challenges that um, a PM that you are going to face? 100%, you are going to be facing on this. Balancing stakeholder expectations. Now, your stakeholders are both internal and external stakeholders, right? So, your developer is a stakeholder, your engineer is a stakeholder, your DevOps guy is a stakeholder, your your C-level executives, right? So you have your, above you stakeholders and the same level, depending on the kind of structure that your business runs, right? So there are going to be different expectations, right? You will have your CEO, your boss now, will come and tell you, these products, I need it in 2 days, right? You know, we tell you, man, bro, you cannot work. Oh. We need like 4 weeks to even get close before we even get to the testing phase. Now you can see that there is disconnect between the expectations of your CEO and the expectations of your developer. So it's now up to you now to manage those expectations by communicating properly. If something is not possible to communicate, it's not possible, it can be done. If you have to, to communicate the importance of getting things done quickly, you will also have to do that by negotiation, right? That's what you have to do, how to overcome that challenge. And prioritizing feature and managing scope, a difficult thing to do, right? Which feature is more important? Which is why there are different prioritization methods that you can use Moscow technique, price technique. Then so you have the most common one is that Moscow. You have your must haves, you have your nice to haves, you have your should haves, and improvements, right? So your must have or the critical are the critical things that that for this product to succeed, you must have it. If you don't have it, it's simply not going to work. Then should have is also critical, but it will not stop your product functioning. For instance, right, if um if you can't if you cannot enter the account number of your recipient, right, you will not be able to make transfers to them, right? So which means your product will not work, right? So that's a must have. You must have it. If you don't have it, you don't have a product. But then there's also things like email notifications or SMS alerts. Your alert will not stop your transfer from going through, right? But it would still drastically improve user experience. That's like it should have, right? And then the other things, maybe push notifications. Might not really know that is nice to have, right? So you have to be able to prioritize what belongs in what, right? Which feature must go. And if you're building a product for the first time, you need to have an MVP. That's like a minimum viable product, and that's what it means, right? The most important features, right? So how do you overcome all these challenges? And keeping up with market changes, have to be doing your research, with effective communication, continuous learning, and adaptation, and building a strong support network, right? You have to be in a community of product managers, right? Or at least at bare minimum, know one or two PMs that you can always bounce your products across. Then another thing is continuous learning and development, right? You have to be up to date every day. The landscape is so fast. What you knew yesterday is not relevant. It might not be relevant again tomorrow. You'll be surprised, right? You have to also always stay ahead of industry trends. Things are moving so quickly. You have to be on top of them, and then you should take online courses. Certified product management and certifications, online courses. A lot of courses, you can get on Coursera, Udemy. Life is easy now these days. You can get anything from anywhere, right? I think on Udemy, Coursera, you can take us online courses about fundamentals of product management, and they will also show you, to even go deeper. These are the other things: lean and design thinking, framework methodologies, etc., things like that. Listen to books, podcasts, like this webinar hosted now. This is a part of development. I know there are some of us that are, PMs already that might even know more than me, and even me, I will learn from. So yeah, then professional networks and community also important. Yeah, so I think that's really keeping it short. Just try to beat the time here. Um, just a quick recap of everything that we've been on. We looked at what are what is product management, who is the product manager, someone that manages life cycle, is involved in strategy. We also talked about the impacts of the product manager in the business. We also talked about what's um, what are the key attributes and what skills you in product management needs to possess, the different stages of a PM and what it means to be at each stage. And let's see, what are the essential skills for a PM, some of the tools and framework and challenges you might have as a product manager, right? And then, so for me, I think my final thoughts on this is first off, this is like a when you're about to cook, please permit my example. When you're about to like make a meal and you you have to boil your water first. That's like the first stage. So what we have done here is we have boiled the water, right? Then it takes continuous learning and improvement, right, for you to like you know get the grasp. But most importantly, ensure you have a mentor. Is what helped me in my early journey was like I had a mentor that was very hard on me. Like, he was just pushing me anyhow, but it really helped. It will help, and it's PM is so interesting. It is tasking, right? It can be tasking, but it can be also interesting as well, right? Because you are dealing with people. You are dealing with people. You are dealing with products. You are dealing with personalities. You are dealing with emotions. So it can be really jarring on a day-to-day basis, and you have to be available than everybody else, right? You can't afford to make mistakes. You can make mistakes, but try not to. So I'm just going to cut it short here because of our time. But of course, I will plead with the moderator to maybe give us about 5 minutes, or if there are questions. But if not, I think I also left my contacts here somewhere. But then let me leave that to the moderator to be in charge of. And maybe if there are any questions, they can be directed to me. So yeah, thank you all for the time for listening to me all this time. So if there are any questions, I'll be taking them, but I'll also hand over to the moderator as well. Thank you.
Very wonderful. One of the things that caught my attention was you talking about project management and product management because I've been interswitching them for I've been taking them. Yeah, so sorry about that. I'm having a lighting issue here right now. My power is almost going out. So, all right. So, I love your explanation of those two, but I have two questions from my end, and I look forward to taking other questions from other persons. All right. So, question goes thus. My question goes thus. So, as a product manager, because a lot of people see this project management and perhaps they're not really taking it so well because of maybe because of the way it sounds. When you hear skills like digital marketing, graphic designing, people think they are much more lucrative than product management because they'll be like, what are we doing in product management? So I know you've spoken a lot, but I want you to give us a very catchy attention that will make us to want to go into that product management beyond what we are just hearing product management. Yes.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Emmanuel. So, my answer might not be what you want to hear, right? I would say you have to have that conviction to want to go into product management. I wouldn't really say there are other fields that are more lucrative, right? It's equally as lucrative. We could just do a quick research on into how much, because let's be real, yeah, we are into, we want to have a career, obviously we want to make money off it, right? We can look at how rewarded product managers are in the world globally, right? It's pretty much on par with other disciplines like analytics, marketing, sales, and all. But what I would say is PM will broaden your horizon to make you think far and wide, right? Um, it's if you are
Yeah,
somebody
yeah,
that
I
is
get that.
obsessed about improvements and development, you will love PM a lot because you constantly see how things can improve, how things can be better. Right? So I won't really say, oh, product management is the best thing in the world. You should get into it right now. Because if you have that mindset, you might get into it and you discover that it's not really as easy as you were thinking. But if you're someone that is obsessed about improvements, obsessed about, and it can come, with work, with working with people, meeting people, talking to your customers. It's
Yeah,
really
yeah,
interesting, right? Knowing that you are in a position where you are able to directly impact the success of a product. Having a product
yeah,
in the market, you know that yes, this is I worked for this to be possible. It's a really fulfilling experience. So that's how it works for me, and maybe hopefully that works for someone else as well.
yeah. I get that. I get that, Mr. Emmanuel. And one thing I noticed you made mention, which really caught my attention, was that product management is quite a lot beyond what people think it is. It's quite a lot beyond what people think it is because number one, you have to understand marketing too. Because if you're a product manager, you have to understand marketing because you are dealing about products and getting that product out there. And also, you answered most of my questions when you also spoke about getting a mentor because a lot of people think that okay, I want to learn a digital skill. They just get it out there and just begin to do it, and they begin to get into a lot of mistakes and flaws, which are it's true that we make mistakes, but this there are some mistakes that are quite uncalled for because if you've gotten a mentor, you should have known that okay, you shouldn't have done this. So I should have asked a question around that, but you actually give us a clear cut insight there that we have to get a mentor. We have to get an industry expert just like you who can guide us into what product management is all about. And thank you for also sharing our tools on how we can go about managing people's product interaction. And that into that caught my attention is communication. You made mention, you said that we have to know how to communicate the product to the team members, because communication is a lot. If you don't know how to communicate the product well, the team members might not really catch a glimpse of what you're talking about, of what you're trying to conceptualize, because you made mention of bringing up concepts from your mind. Yes, I know you also made mention of the activity of users that is beyond you just thinking they will do it this way. Make research. Make research about that product. How can users use it? How can they benefit from it? How can it solve their problem? How can it bring solution to what they're looking for? And really, it's a very nice and awesome session with you, Mr. Emmanuel. Thank you very much for your time. We hope to get any question, but if no question, we'll just call this section again. Mr. Emmanuel, thank you so much, sir.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Really appreciate the
Yeah,
opportunity
yes.
to be share what I know. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Thank you so much for having us today. All right. Thank you everyone for joining us in today's webinar. We hope to see you next weekend for another session of this insightful webinar. And also, if you are yet to follow our social media pages, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and also LinkedIn, Demo Hub Official, so that you get every information about this hub webinar and how it's going to be empowering you and also help you to enjoy and ride smoothly on this your career journey. Beyond this, is because he said, Mr. Emmanuel said it, that it's beyond knowing. You have to know and keep on knowing, because the knowledge you know yesterday might not be useful today. So that is what this hub webinar is for, to teach us and to also equip us with the right tools, knowledge to scale up in our career journey. And I hope we learned a lot in this session. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you next week. Have a wonderful night.